Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel and welcome back to Unconventional Road Trip Month. 2 weeks ago, I reviewed Steven Spielberg's excellent TV movie Duel, and today, because it's Thanksgiving, I'm going to be reviewing what is considered to be the quintessential Thanksgiving film. This is my retro review for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which came out in 1987, stars Steve Martin and John Candy, and is written and directed by the legendary John Hughes. The movie follows Neil, played by Steve Martin. He is a marketing executive who is leaving New York City a couple days before Thanksgiving and traveling back to Chicago to try to spend the holiday with his family. On his way to the airport, he meets a salesman named Dell, played by John Candy, who he ends up sitting next to on the flight. However, due to a severe snowstorm, the plane can't fly all the way from New York to Chicago, but Neil is determined to get back to Chicago before Thanksgiving. So he and Dell try to find as many transportation methods as possible to try to get Neil back to Chicago in time for Thanksgiving. And you know Neil lives in Chicago because this is a John Hughes film. Before I continue, if you like this review and you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel and also hit the bell button to get a notification when a new video comes out. Anyway, let's continue with the review. This is regarded as one of the classic Thanksgiving films. In fact, it is the classic, because whenever you ask anybody, hey, name a Thanksgiving movie, instantly people will go to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving is the go-to answer when it comes to a Thanksgiving special, but this movie is the go-to when it comes to Thanksgiving movies, and for a good reason. The surface level reason is because the main character is trying to get home in time for Thanksgiving, but there's some other elements to it that make it feel great for Thanksgiving, which I'll talk about near the end of the review. But this movie is a classic. There's no denying that at all. And it was actually the first John Hughes movie that he directed to not be a teen film, because prior to this movie, he directed 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He had written a couple of other movies beforehand, but this was his first movie that he directed to not feature teens as the main characters. And it's a great testament to him as a director that he can branch off into another section of comedy, and it's a really funny film. The scenarios that these two guys get into are just so absurd and ridiculous, but they're funny. Whether it's the two of them driving on the wrong side of the freeway and getting sandwiched in between two oncoming trucks, whether it's them driving a burnt car that was just on fire not too long ago. There's some really funny moments throughout, and the chemistry between the two lead actors is just perfection. It's one of the most iconic duos of the comic relief paired up with the straight man. The straight man's case, it's Steve Martin, who is really funny at just being an uptight marketing executive who doesn't want anything to do with this salesman. Their first meeting is Dell stealing a cab from Neil as he's trying to get to the airport. And on top of that, Neil runs into Dell at the same terminal. They end up sitting together on the same flight, and it results in them having to go on this cross-country road trip where Neil is just absolutely annoyed at Dell. But as the movie progresses, the two end up becoming true friends. And Steve Martin is really funny. He has great comedic timing as the straight man, just dealing with all of Dell's bullshit. And there are some absolutely funny lines from him. My favorite is when Neil goes on a complete rant towards Dell about how he talks too much, he's annoying, and one line in particular is, "When it comes to your so-called stories, here's a good idea. Have a point, because it makes it so much more interesting for the listener." Steve Martin is, of course, a comic genius. Even with his worst films, he still is really funny. And when you watch his older stuff, you forget how funny he actually is. And just in case somebody mentions this in the comments below, I have seen a little bit of Only Murders in the Building, and he's great in that. I would really like to catch up on that show in the future. Now, in regards to John Candy, I have seen this movie before, but it was a long time ago, and one of my biggest fears of rewatching it is, would I be annoyed at John Candy's character? And I'm happy to say that I was not. John Candy is hilarious. He is the straightforward comic relief, but he's also a very kind guy. He's somebody who is caring towards others. He may talk a lot, he may get on your nerves, but his intentions are good. And he's not somebody that you would look at and go, why would anybody be friends with that guy? You look at him and go, yeah, he's eccentric, but his heart's in the right place. He is a kind guy at the end of the day and just wants to make friends. And when you get towards the end of the movie and you realize that Del is homeless and he's a widower, you're like, shit, this really funny movie just took a dark turn. And even before the big reveal, you get a hint at him being a widower early on. So when we get to the end of the movie, Neil has that revelation that, oh my god, Del has nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. He turns around. We get the big explanation that Del is homeless and his wife passed away years ago, to where Neil invites him home for Thanksgiving. Because they've gone through so much on this journey, and by the end of it, they're friends, that it would be the most Thanksgiving thing ever to invite him home for dinner. And I also like how the movie ends at that point. It doesn't need to go on any longer. It just ends with Neil and Del coming home, meeting Neil's family, and that's where it ends. Like, that, for me, is the quintessential Thanksgiving ending for this movie. You also have a couple of cameos from people that have appeared in other John Hughes films. Ben Stein has a very quick blink and you'll miss it cameo as an airport attendant, and he was the economics teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. And he's just as dry in this movie as he was in Ferris Bueller. You also have Eddie McClurg, who in Ferris Bueller played Principal Rooney's secretary, and she has a great scene in this movie opposite Steve Martin. She plays a rental car attendant, and Steve Martin is just going off on her, dropping several F-bombs on how he can't rent a car and whatnot. And she basically has the perfect zinger to shut him up, and her delivery of that line is excellent. I'm not going to say what it is because it's too good to spoil. I already loved this movie when I first saw it, but rewatching it again for this review, I fell in love with it even more, and it also made me despise another movie that's very similar to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and that's Due Date. If you guys missed out on Due Date, first of all, God bless you for it, because it's awful. But that movie involves Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis traveling across the country to try to make Robert Downey Jr.'s the birth of his kid. There are several reasons why that movie doesn't work. One of them is that Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis have no chemistry with each other. The other is that unlike John Candy in this movie, who is very wholesome, funny, and is just an overall nice guy despite his eccentricness, Zach Galifianakis' character in Due Date is an idiot, as in, like, he has an IQ of about 20. He is responsible for Robert Downey Jr.'s character not getting on the plane, just flying back home. So they're forced to travel together across the country. And there's no real good reason why anybody would want to be friends with this guy. Like, that movie is just everything that is wrong with these unlikely duo road trip movies, whereas Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is everything right with this subgenre of comedy. And with that said, if you haven't seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, especially on today, you need to get off your ass and go see it right now. It is the perfect Thanksgiving movie, and it's just an all-around funny comedy. I'm surprised that I actually don't own this on Blu-ray. You gotta pick it up at some point. But yeah, if you've not seen this movie, go watch it. If you have, watch it again because it's that good. And there you go, that's my review for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I hope you enjoyed it, and we are at the home stretch of this series of double feature retro reviews. Next month is December, or next week I should say, and we're ending this year off with Christmas month. So I have two movies planned for this. Again, one that I have seen and one that I have not seen. The first one up is actually going to be a John Hughes written movie, and it's a classic of his, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I first saw this movie 5 years ago in a theater for its 30th anniversary. I love it, and I can't wait to review it on this channel. And as for the second review, back in April, I mentioned that I'd be reviewing one other Schwarzenegger movie this year, and given that it's gonna be the Christmas season. There's no other movie that I could review outside of the smash holiday classic movie Jingle All the Way! If you ever watched the old via satellite bits from Conan O'Brien's late night show, then you get the reference. But I had to make that reference so I could try to restrain myself from making it during the actual review. But yeah, I've never seen Jingle All the Way before, so next month is going to be the month I review it. So I hope you guys tune in next month for the final set of retro movie reviews for 2024. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. And I also want to give a special shout out to my YouTube members right over here. If you want to help support the channel even more, you can do so via YouTube memberships for as little as $1.99 a month. Not only do you get early access to all of my videos, including this one, but you get exclusive perks, including my top 5 favorite series, and the ability to nominate and vote for monthly retro reviews. And that's all going to start next year. I hope you consider joining as a YouTube member in the future. And until next time, I want to know what you guys think about planes, trains, and automobiles. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can do so through these social media links and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, happy Thanksgiving, and take care of yourselves.